where we have y equals m times x plus b, and this m represents my slope. Are we okay with that? Let me ask you a question. What does the word slope mean to you? What does the word slope mean to you? Read, what does it mean?
Oh, we're talking about math lines or just any?
Either one.
I thought I heard you say it was the y-intercept yesterday. Is that what it was?
Slope and y-intercept are two different things, but I appreciate you hearing that word. Ruger, what does slope mean to you?
An angle.
An angle, right? All right, so I'm going to pick on Ruger. Let's say we stuck Ruger in a tire. You guys seen those big tires, right? You've seen people roll down them. We stuck Ruger in a tire. If we try to push Ruger up a hill, it's going to be difficult, right? Because we are having to fight gravity up this hill. Agreed?
No.
If we try to push Ruger down the hill in this tire, what's going to happen?
He's gone. He's gonna throw
Ruger's gone. We might never catch Ruger again. He might roll all the way to the ocean. Right? What happens if we put Ruger in the tire on an extremely flat surface that has no slope at all?
It'll just stay there.
Then Ruger is going to sit crushed inside of that tire and do nothing. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. That is slope. Raise your hand if you know how to ride a bike. There's no judgment if you don't. I'm not like trying to single you out. When you ride a bike, is it easier to go up or downhill? Downhill is easier, right? Downhill is a little more scary, but it's easier because you don't even have to pedal. You just going uphill. You gotta do that awkward bit where you're standing up and you're having to use your legs, and the back of your bike is going this way and that way, and you're doing the whole bob and weave. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. If you're on a flat surface, riding a bike is not bad. It's actually kind of nice, right? You got the wind blowing at you. You still got to pedal, but you're moving. That's slope. Okay? There are 4 types of slope. I'd like you to write these down. And I'll show you a video probably tomorrow. When slope starts low and goes up, we call that a positive slope. When slope starts low and goes up, we call that a positive slope. When slope starts high and gets low, we call that a negative slope. When slope starts high and gets low, we call that a negative slope. When a line goes totally flat, we call that a zero slope. Can anybody guess why we call it a zero slope? Why, Josh?
Because it's like 180 degrees with like nothing in between.
Can we agree that if I have a totally flat line, there's zero slope, it's not going up or down? It's just totally zero. It's your base. And then finally, last but not least, if we go straight up and down, we call that undefined. 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 And the reason we call it undefined is because whenever our scientists or our mathematicians or whatever they were decided they were going to measure a straight up and down line, they couldn't measure it because they fell down. Because if the line is just totally flat, there's nothing there to hold on to, right? It would just fall forever and ever and ever. Again, tomorrow I'll show you a video. I think you'll like the video, get a good kick out of it. Kendall will probably start blasting it whenever we walk into class on his computer, but it'll be good.
What?
You'll just find out tomorrow. All right, now, slope in the most simplest form is what we call rise over run. Rise over run. I'd like you to write that down somewhere on your notes. Rise over run. Rise over run. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, we are beginning an entire unit over slope, which means that we're going to be dealing with this for the foreseeable future. Okay? We're going to be talking about good things, bad things, and things in between. But before we can start learning these equations, we have to understand what it is. All right, I'm going to try to connect some dots here. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I told you that slope and constant were the same thing. Is that fair? Does anybody remember what the formula for constant was? I remember. It's a pretty easy one. Rosie, what do you think? Okay, so slope is y2 minus y1 over x minus x, and we'll come back to that. Does anybody remember what the constant formula is? We learned it a couple of weeks ago. Read?
It's like k equals x times y?
Pretty warm. You're pretty warm there. pretty warm. Anybody else want to give it a guess? It was k equals y divided by x. K equals y divided by x. Let me ask you this question. If I'm looking at this graph, don't look at this line, just look at the coordinate plane here. Do we agree that this is my y-axis? So do we agree that we are rising whenever we're finding y? And do we agree that this is my x-axis? And do we agree that we are running whenever we're finding the x value? Everybody nod their head. We're good with that? All right, so again, day one of slope. Let me show you how we're going to do this. Well, first of all, let me ask this question. Is this a proportional line?
No.
Good, 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 good. We're going to pick a point. I am going to choose this point right here. I'm choosing 1, 0. 1, 0.
Are we allowed to write on
Absolutely, that's your notes. I'm choosing 1, 0.
the y-axis or the x-axis? Is the x-axis, right?
X comes first.
Alright.
X comes before y. I'm sorry, let me clarify that. X comes before y. Okay, we good with that? Now, do you see any other points on that graph that cross at a perfect spot that wouldn't be in between two numbers? I see one. I just want to see if you see it. Do you see any other spot that is exactly in numbers, it's not crossing in the middle, it's not messing up anywhere else?
Yep.
What do you got for me, Josh?
-3, -5.
-3, -5. Do we agree? Yes, no?
I thought it was 1.
You thought it was what?
No, I'm good.
2 and 1.
I thought it was 2 and 1, but it's a
Okay, well if I go to 2 and 1, 2 and 1 would be right here. Isn't that a little bit below where the line goes?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. And so the reason that matters though, Jackson, is because that means that that number is a little bit of a decimal. We'd be estimating. But if we're exactly on that spot, then we know exactly where it is. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I've identified my 2 points. Now I'm going to rise up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to run over 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is 5, and my run is 4. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how you find slope.
So 5 over 4?
5 over 4 is your slope. Let that sink in for just a second. Look at it. Went up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I ran over 1, 2, 3, 4.
I get it now.
Josh.
Could you go towards the y-axis and then up? Or that, maybe the other one, never mind.
You gotta rise and then run.
Yeah.
Rise and then run. This is the most important thing about today's lesson. We have to rise before we run. We good there? All right, ready for number 2? Ruger, you're not ready for number 2?
How did you find where the first guy was?
I just looked for 2 points that crossed at exactly the spot. They weren't in between numbers, so they weren't going to be decimals or fractions. They were just exactly full whole numbers. Does that make sense or no? Okay. Yes, Reed.
This is the 7th grade material, correct? So they don't
This is what?
This is 8th grade.
This is 8th grade.
Uh,
This is 8th grade. Okay, now let's go to number 2. All right, 2 questions starting off. Is this proportional, number 2?
No.
no.
Okay, it's not proportional. Is this a positive, negative, 0, or undefined line?
Negative.
It's negative because the line starts up and then starts going down. So that means that whatever our rise or run ends up, it has to have a negative sign attached to it. Okay, so now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find 2 points that cross perfectly. How about this one
3 and 0.
and this one?
0 and
Do we agree?
Yes.
Okay, so what has to come first, the rise or the run? Rise. So I'm going up 1, and I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my slope is going to be -1, over 5. Yes, Isaac.
So when you said that 3 and 5 are like they meet, like what do you mean by that? Because
When I said what? I'm sorry?
so I'm just kind of confused, honestly,
On what, Isaac?
because you said that 3 and then 3 and 5 like
I don't believe I said anything about 3 and 5. What about 3 and 5?
because you said that they meet up or something like
Basically saying that.
I just want to help him. So if anybody understands what he's trying to ask, please help him out. Read.
I have a different question.
Hold on, let's stay with his question.
Okay.
All right, Evan. So Evan asked, do we just pick any random point? Isaac, when you have your question, let me know, okay?